a central focus of your ministry. It can't be what we're doing now, because our real focus is here.
Yeah.
You know, this is what we do every day, but now we're doing this. No, you have to merge that into this is who we are. And at that point, you will continue to, if you find a measure of success, you just add them up.
Yeah.
You know, every one soul we win, bring off the streets, get a job, that's success.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, but it's ongoing, and it can wear you down.
Oh, you better believe it. I know that. Tell us a little bit about your and Damon Lynch Jr.'s effort to start the credit union. What prompted you to do that? And as we move into an economic discussion on this show, I remember back in '93, '94, writing an article about it in the Herald, first hearing about it, being very enthusiastic about it. But what was the inside?
I was sitting there trying to think, when did I first meet you?
But it had to be around '94, '95, I think.
But whenever I think about Jim Klingman, I always think about economics. It had something to do, I'm sure, with economics.
Yeah, right.
And so it could have been in reading that article you used to put out with the Herald or whatever, but called together a group of ministers, along with Damon Jr., called together a group of ministers, and we talked about what do we want to do, because we really didn't have that economic base here in our city. And so we talked about either doing a bank or a credit union. And after seeing how much red tape and you know, funds it takes
money.
To start a bank, we decided to do a credit union. And so that was back in actually got the charter back in '97, but we started in the early '90s trying to do a credit union.
Right.
And we got it up and running. It was a community-based credit union for anyone who lived, worked, or worshiped in Avondale. Would have been, I think, very successful, but again, trying to change the whole mindset of people to support other black people, we were still dealing with. And so, you know, and even the banks were even telling us they would rather deposit their money in a bank where, you know, no one really knows them than to put their money into a black credit union, and now they for some reason think we're going to know all their business. And really, to start the credit union, and I want to thank you, Jim, you was very supportive of the credit union, but to start the credit union, all you had to do was open up a $5 account.
$5 account,
We couldn't get hardly anyone to open up a $5 account, you know. And because, you know, again, we're gospel preachers. I really don't run credit unions and banks. We really needed someone to step up to run that. But discovered that banks and credit unions make their money not based on deposits, but really based on loans. But you need a deposit to make the loans. And so we couldn't get the deposits to really make the loans, and so therefore we ended up merging with Synco in Clifton. But it was a great effort, and Damon called me not too long ago, maybe sometime last year, saying we need to do that again. You know,
like you said, sustain the effort, right?
We need to do it again, because that is the piece that we are missing, the economic base.
Definitely.
And I just did a series of sermons based upon money, and I was setting it up each week saying, I'm going to talk about something that's more powerful than crack and more powerful than sex.
Wow.
And people were like, what are you talking about? And I said, money.
And
I said, because basically, you know, you can do without crack, because everybody don't take crack. And sometimes you're in situations where you have to do without sex. But there's not a situation you can be in that you have to do without money. I mean, even the bum out on the street, if they got on any kind of clothes, it took some money to buy those clothes. Whatever we in, and as the Bible says, money answers all things. And so we really need that economic base for our city.
You sound like Booker T. Washington. But in addition to the credit union, you were involved with buying the Avondale Town Center. How did that come about? Were you involved with that, Damon?
No, just Avondale churches.
Yeah, well, we called all the churches in Avondale together to look at the town center. The report was that they were selling drugs out of the Wendy's pickup window and all that. And so Oscar Robinson and his attorney owned the Avondale Town Center. So we came together, but 4 churches stayed at the table. Greater New Hope, Carmel Presbyterian, Southern Baptist, along with Corinthian, and said we wanted to go forth to purchase the town center. We got a broker. He ended up putting the deal together with HUD, got a loan from HUD, which allowed us now to take the lease money that the vendors up there at the town center were paying and take the lease money to pay back the loan money from HUD. So it really didn't cost the churches really anything. It was really a great package that we put together. But again, it just showed us the need to be able to control things like that. And Damon, I remember he calling me not too long ago and said, we really need, when we go out and hit the streets, to have, what'd you say, a pocket full of jobs or something. I forgot exactly how he said it, because that's what the young brothers out in the street, you know, are in need of. You know, just to go out and say, well, you know, you can join our church, or you can get on the usher board singing the choir. Okay, but they really need some things that's going to help them with their daily living.
Like you said, they need some money.
They need a job. So we really need to be able to create jobs or something.
Definitely. I always say, it's one thing to tell these young people what not to do, but we have to tell them what they can do and what they should do as well, and then have something to offer them as an alternative to what they are doing. And you're exactly right, to own some jobs that we can pass on to them. I mean, that's the greatest thing in the world. Damon, as we look at the credit union and Avondale Town Center now, the focus is on Jordan Crossing. And there's some talk and some conversation about revamping that and bringing it back to what it used to be and all of that. And I know you've done some economic development work through your church, through your CDC, down on Elm Street. What's your perspective now as to direction for black people, especially when it comes to development of those kinds of business districts?
Well, I think I always believe you need to learn from history. And history is a great teacher. Allen Temple purchased the Swifton at the time, now Jordan Crossing. I think if you go talk to them, I mean, because now they're trying to get this deal with the city to get the money and eventually sell it to the city. They may make a little profit out of it, they may not. They may have seen it as just a major headache. Sometimes you pick up things and you go, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
That's right.
But you're stuck with this major maintenance issue, this major headache. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if buying it, of course, just seems like a good idea. If you own the land, you can control the land. But you got to be able then, once you have a plan, then once you have it, to be able to do something productive with it, something sustainable with it.
That's right.
And hopefully something that brings in revenue, because ongoing maintenance and care of the facility can be tremendous. Out now in Kenwood, people with money can't get stuff done. This little shopping thing they were trying to build.
A lot of businesses I know got skipped on that one.
You got to be wary right now.
What about Elm Street? You've been down there for a while, and you own some property, not you, but the CDC. What's your vision for that now?
We purchased the property on Elm Street where our church is. When I came there, our church, we owned the church building and one other building that was vacant. So we then renovated the other building we owned and then purchased 5 more buildings on the block. So we own 7 out of 9 buildings on Elm Street. Today, whatever day this is airing, but when I leave here, I have another meeting with somebody who's trying to help us renovate the block. The goal has always been to have storefronts below, housing up above. That's what the buildings in Over the Rhine were originally.
That's what they used to be.
Our reason for purchasing it, though, was to control our own destiny. When I came to New Prospect 20 years ago, that entire block was full of stores and residents. Somewhere in that 20-year period, the entire block from Globe to us went empty. We were the last one standing on that block. Globe left, the pharmacy left, it was another little, the Hamilton County food stamp building was there. Everybody left. All the tenants were gone. So now you have this empty block. Well, we decided we need to control our own destiny. We purchased it. And again, like I said about buying the town center or buying Jordan's Crossing, it's one thing to say we have it. It's another thing to be able to plan it and renovate it. And we're still in that planning and renovation process.
Now, go ahead, KZ.
Just want to say, Damon said something about owning and controlling the land. I remember when we was doing the Avondale Town Center, Dwight Tillery and the late James Milton, who was the pastor of Southern Baptist, pretty well led the effort. And we all went to Detroit. We met with Charles Adams and James Hartford Memorial there in Detroit. And I remember Perkins saying, the one thing God is not making more of is land.
That's
so
right.
Because we asked him, well, when you buy this land, what are you going to do? He said, first, we just want to buy the land. Because once we get the land, it's ours, and we can control, what's going to happen with the land. And that's pretty well the attitude that we took, is that, first we want to be able to control the land that we have. And so it's very important that we be able to purchase some land.
Yeah, definitely. What's going on in Cincinnati now with all of these development projects that we see? And of course, the conversation now is centered on economic inclusion, or exclusion, as some of us like to call it, because that's exactly what's happening. I think what you just said is it's even more, it's very important that we have some control over land, over projects, that we own our own businesses, as I always promote, and everything. And I think that it gets me to my next question. What do you guys feel is the role of specifically the Black church in economic development, economic empowerment? Is there a role, and if so, what is it?
I think in having this discussion, and I applaud what the four churches did in Avondale, what Allen Temple did, Jordan's Crossing. So clearly, the churches are doing, and in doing on an economic scale. We know all the criticism we get of the Black church in the Black community. I really don't hear the white community complain, but the Black community, gives the Black church
what
a
those
whole,
preachers do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard it many times.
But what they have done is to be applauded. One of the greatest tasks all of us have is to deal with the mindset and the consciousness of Black people. If we could win that battle, if people who are watching this today go online, go to YouTube and click Malcolm X and the speech where he entitled, "Who Taught You to Hate Yourself?"
Wow.
And Malcolm lays it out. If we could just pull that self-hatred out of our own hearts and minds and support each other's efforts, then economically we would succeed. Again, history is a great teacher.
Right.
And so there was a time when we had thriving Black communities, thriving Black businesses, and of course we moved then, instead of just desegregating America, our goal was to integrate. There's a difference between the two.
That's right.
Desegregation says you can't tell us where we can and cannot.
That's right.
All right, we've got access to all America we want. Integration, though, says we so badly want to be part of you.
That's right.
That we will neglect our own. And we did that. And it was interesting. Kwame Ture, in his book Ready for the Revolution, talked about how the whole idea of integration came into the movement, but he said it was never discussed. There was never a meeting that said we want to integrate into America. It just became part of the lingo, part of the jargon, and everybody accepted it. And he remembers one day sitting at a lunch counter as they were down in Mississippi, and they were all trained. We're going to integrate this place. You just, whatever they do, you take it. And he said these people were pouring sugar and milk on them. And he said there was this one woman, it was something about her that just got to him. She was, well, I don't know why you people want to eat with us. I wouldn't want to eat anywhere where people didn't want me to eat. And it got to him, so he broke ranks. He said, lady, let me explain to you. He said, it's not that we want to eat with you, but it's that we won't allow you to tell us where we can and cannot eat.
That's it.
He said, and make sure you understand that once we win this, I will never be back in here.
Wow.
To eat your food. That was the right mindset.
That's right.
As opposed to the other mindset is, I can't wait to sit at your lunch counter and eat your food because I ain't going to Aunt Sarah's and give you my money. And our mindset is still the same. You talk about the Black church. Hear this. This is important. This is the first time in history for the Black church that we are losing Black members to the white church. Now, the Black community has always had to fight the larger white community for everything. Black newspapers got to fight against the larger press. black businesses against the larger businesses, but the black church was always ours.
Yes.
Now, for the first time in the black church history, black folk think the white church is better.
Wow.
Just like the white man's ice was better in the day,
colder.
the white man's ice was colder, the white man's church is better, the white man's preacher is better, and so the black church now is facing the exodus of black members to the white church. So if the church ever integrates, it won't be because they came to us.
Right.
Sadly, it'll be because we went to them.
Right.
And what black folk who do that don't understand, what you're saying is that the white man's church is better.
Better.
Exactly.
Now, those who have done that, who hear me today, they will sit at home and go, that's not what I'm saying. That is exactly what you're saying.
Right.
The white man's church is better.
And Damon makes a great point with integration. Integration was kind of around the idea that we'll come to your businesses and you'll come to ours, patronize ours. But it really was just us going to them.
Exactly.
And so our businesses closed down and their businesses grew.
That's right.
And so, that was the problem with integration. Now, as Damon said, the same thing is happening with the church. Is that when you really look, the body of Christ, I believe the body of Christ ought to be diverse. Black, white, brown, red, yellow, should be diverse. But when you look at congregations around the country, for the most part, you have blacks going to predominantly white congregations, but you don't see those same percentages of whites going to black churches. Right. And for the most part, whites will go to black churches if the preacher is a celebrity like T.D. Jakes or something like that, or Creflo Dollar. But you don't really see whites going to black congregations. And so the same thing is starting to happen, and the same thing can happen with the church that maybe kind of happened with the ministers, that we really start losing the congregants that's coming to our churches.
Yeah, I wrote a couple of pieces on that in a couple of books that I did. I was talking about the fact that this whole notion of assimilation and integration and how it affected the churches is exactly what you just said, that the white congregants are not willing to sit under the leadership, under black leadership. They're not going to come. But we see our people going in the opposite direction, like you said, to white dominated churches. And when you look back in history and you go all the way back to Richard Allen and what happened with him and other people, and you came and did a class of mine at University of Cincinnati when I taught that course on the history of the black church, and talked about how hard a struggle it was for black folks to even have their own churches.
Right.
And then, just like our businesses, we give them back. And now the trend is going away from our own, the only institution that everything came from as well. The benevolent societies, entrepreneurs, schools all came from the black church, credit unions. And here we're giving it all back again. And I always say, during the civil rights period, when we won civil rights, some of our people took that as civil privileges instead of civil rights. It's a privilege for me to go and spend my money with someone else. It's a privilege for me now to drink out of the same water fountain and to sleep in a hotel room. But as William Gray said, it's not whether you can check into the hotel, it's whether you can pay the bill to check out now. And we have this lack of consciousness, like you said, and this whole self-hate that we really need to rid ourselves of. And that's why I teach about it so much, that it's a